So what made you apply for this position?
Well, certainly I've been interested in being a principal, for a while. Westhill in particular, as maybe has been reported a little bit already, is pretty special to me because I went to high school there. And it was at Westhill that I discovered that I wanted to be a teacher. And so, that whole full circle experience, and to be able to come back to the high school I attended and where I discovered my my passion for being an educator is it's storybook perfect. So that would be my biggest reason for wanting to come to Westhill. That's how special it is to me.
So let's talk a little bit about that moment, because I was
Yeah.
going to ask about that later. What can you take me to a specific moment when maybe there was a teacher or a student?
Yeah, I certainly can, and I actually just saw her last week because she came to Ripon for a PD. So it was Mary Ellen White, really. It started with Diane Blackwell. She was a PE teacher at Westhill, and she worked down at the pool with special ed students. And I had a study hall, and Mr. Koch, my chemistry teacher, read the bulletin that day and said, if you had a study hall in that particular period, I don't remember which period it was, you can go down to the pool and instead and help the kids learn how to swim. So I only went down there because I wanted to go in the pool. But I discovered how much I really enjoyed helping these students learn how to swim. And then they would, many of them would see me in the halls and stuff, and they would call me and come to our classroom. I don't even remember how I ended up in their classroom, but I did. And Miss White took me under her wing, and she allowed me to work with those students, and she taught me how to write a lesson plan. And I remember I taught one particular student how to tie a sneaker, and that was it. That was it. It didn't take very long. I discovered I wanted to be a special education teacher, and took it from there.
So what's most important to you in terms of the school or the student body, I guess?
Well, I think about the kind of student I was, and prior to discovering that I wanted to be a teacher, I was never a bad kid, but I had what they call a fixed mindset, where when I struggled, I just figured, well, I just can't get it, and might as well just, I'll try, but maybe not try as hard as I could or whatever, and so those students helped me to change my attitude about my own learning. And so for years now as a teacher and then as an assistant principal, I've always felt that one of my most important responsibilities was to help teachers and help students understand that if they apply themselves and they believe in their own abilities and they work as hard as they can achieve anything that they want. So I would want to be able to do that, obviously, on a larger scale as a principal at Westhill, and I would want students to understand that it's really important from the moment you enter as a freshman to have a plan, to have a dream, and to understand that everything that you do in high school every single day is going to get you closer to that, or may pull you in the wrong direction. And I'd love to be able to communicate that to students.
So there's going to be a lot of transitions, a lot of stuff that's going to be difficult, some stuff's going to be fun.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the most difficult or the hardest part about this whole?
I know that already. What is the most difficult is just understanding that, hey, I'm the principal now. It's humbling. It's humbling. There's going to be a learning curve no matter what. I had a couple years experience as an AP at Stanford High School, so I understand certainly the high school is certainly going to be run and led differently than a middle school or an elementary school. But just the enormity of the position, the responsibility that it entails is something that isn't lost on me, and it's really, really important to me. I guess it would just be understanding that, hey, that's your role now, for sure.
So we talked about it a little before, but the students all want to know, and this can be the pressing topic next year, but how do we feel about open campus?
Yeah, so in my research in preparation for the interviews, I did discover that right now you have a partial open campus. And so I would certainly want to learn more. I want to learn from first Miss Figluzzi where she is on this, and I'm going to get an opportunity to speak with her pretty quickly. I'd like to see the students' I would imagine it almost unanimously students are going to want that, right? And so, yeah, I think that that's something that I would be willing certainly to consider and maybe even expand on if we can assure that there's going to be a system for that, that it's something that students would earn, that it could be monitored correctly, and that it's safe and not just a free-for-all. I think it's really important, especially for seniors, to be given more opportunity to be independent. Because when you leave high school, whether you're going to go to college or into some other path, you're going to be often on your own. And so I think we owe it to you to give you opportunities to exercise that freedom.
Well said. I think that's going to go over well. So, if you were to describe yourself as an administrator, just because most of the kids don't know you yet, because we're from Cluna and TOR, how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, it just generally speaking.
We'll just give you generally.
So it started when I became a teacher. I wanted to be the teacher that I wished I had as a kid, and then that continued when I became an administrator. So I wanted to be the assistant principal. Now I want to be the principal that I always wished that I had, and that's not clearly defined. It's hard to put into terms, but generally speaking, I believe that I already am that person in that. So I'm certainly someone who truly is invested in every single student's success. I take that role very seriously. I definitely have a sense of humor, and I remember very clearly what it is to be a kid. I think it's just an outcome of this profession. You don't forget because you're constantly reminded about what it is to be a kid. So I think I can certainly communicate that and relate on that level with students. At the same time, I think being a good principal, in this case, isn't much different than being a good parent. You're going to love your kids. You're going to want to have fun with your students. You want to give them voice. You want to give them choice. At the same time, you need to set boundaries, and you need to make sure the students understand that, or your own children understand that there are boundaries, and it's important that you're safe and that you make the right decisions. And sometimes you may have to hear no. Sometimes it may not be what you want it to be, but responsible adults who work with kids make sure they communicate that.
Talk about your son. How important is it that he's in Stanford Public Schools and that you came through the system? How much does that help you?
Man, you asked me about my kid. That's where it's at. My son is just turned 10 on last Thursday, and he's at Tokwam, and he's in 4th grade for a couple more months. His mother, or my wife, Jennifer, teaches kindergarten there. She's been a teacher there the entire time we've been married, so 17 years. That's the part of this that, very truthfully, I wanted to be a principal, and but more important than that, I wanted to be a principal here, because this is where I live. This is where my son goes to school. This is where my parents were born and my grandparents. I'm about Stanford. The fact that now I'm, in this role in Stanford, and my son attends school. I mean, you may know, I brought him to, we came as a family the night I was appointed. I brought him to, we saw
Guys
Pardon the interruption, Danielle Dumond and Faith Reynoso. Please report to room 241.
the 50-50 raffle, and I brought him right up on stage with my wife.
Please
I
report to room
want
241.
my son
Thank you.
to experience everything that's wonderful about your dad being a principal of a high school. I want to bring him to events. I want him to see what goes on. It certainly would prepare him better for high school, as he's going to end up being there. But yeah, my son is my world, and I know I speak for my wife as well. And so making, attempting to work as hard as I can to make the district the best it can be has even been more important to me now for the last 10 years after having a child. So.
We know you worked in Puerto Rico for a time. Obviously, Westhill coming with like 36 Spanish population, 34 white. How much will that time in Puerto Rico, what you learned, how much will that help you at Westhill?
So just a quick backstory. When I started teaching at Northeast Elementary School, there was a bilingual program there, and most of the kids spoke Spanish as a first language. And when I would need to speak to their parents or make calls home, I would often almost always have to have someone translate for me. And I'm a people person. I like to make contact with somebody face to face and build a relationship that way. And even when it was face to face, to have someone translate, just something missing there, And so I wanted to learn Spanish. And I wanted to learn culture. And so I just got this idea that I'll take a leave of absence after tenure was 4 years then, so I got my tenure. And it sounds pretty dramatic, but I guess it is. I took a leave of absence and I moved to Puerto Rico. I got a job teaching in one of the schools in the mountains. The town I lived in was called Utuado. And so I was there for an entire year. I learned Spanish. I learned about culture. And so long before this appointment, there hasn't honestly been a day that's gone by as an administrator that it hasn't made all the difference in the world. It just allows me to have a better ability to connect. If I had more time, I'd go to Haiti and learn Creole. This is what this city's about, and so that was just my attempt to be able to connect more with a facet of the community, a part of the community that I didn't feel I was connecting with as much. So I think it will help me tremendously.
So just to wrap it up here, when we look back at the legacy that Mr. Rinaldi will leave on Westhill, what do you want to leave? What do you hope to accomplish, I should say, with your time at Westhill?
That's a very big and broad question, and I would want at least part of my legacy to be that I came to work every day with the single goal to create an environment for kids that was the absolute best it could be in support of their academic, social, and emotional growth. And so that when they left, they had a plan. They were able to do and pursue their dreams because of the time that they spent at Westhill, and that they left with some lessons regarding character and integrity and an attitude that they were going to be able to accomplish anything they set their mind to. That's what I would like to somehow be connected to my legacy.
You good?
Yep.
You got any questions?
One more. So, what is one thing that you will take from your time here at Ripwam, at Northeast, Puerto Rico, all the places you've been, something you'll take for Westhill?
This work is a process. And what I've learned in every school that I've worked with, and especially what I learned, well, maybe not especially, but I certainly was reminded this when I worked in Puerto Rico because I didn't know anyone, is that the success of a school requires a collaborative effort among everybody that works in the building, including students. No one person can affect positive change alone. No one person can, no matter what their energy is and no matter what their commitment is, no one person can get it done by themselves. There has to be a spirit and a real sincere collaborative process in place where everyone feels valued and everyone relies on each other to, in this case, move a school forward and improve it. And so that's, I think, one of the bigger things I've learned in the years that I've been in the district.